But we have a vision for how we can simplify the health and wellness through adding ingredients into a textile product integrated next to the skin and things you would wear, base layers or other items, and it releases into the skin of the wearer over a time-released period of time these cosmetic benefits that we're looking for.
Welcome to Clothing Culture, a fashion industry podcast at the intersection of technology and innovation. I'm Emily Lane.
And I'm Bret Schnitker. We speak with experts and disruptors who are moving the industry forward and discuss solutions to real industry challenges.
Clothing Culture is produced by Stars Design Group, a global design and production house with more than 30 years of experience. Welcome back to another episode of Clothing Culture. We're continuing our trend of having conversations with people that we think are mad scientists of our industry. I'm so excited to welcome our next guest that we had the opportunity to meet during a very surprising trip to North Carolina. We went and toured a couple innovation centers, one in Conover, North Carolina called Manufacturing Solutions Center that houses Clothing 2.0, which Brad Seese is the
C2 if you want to be cool.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, shorten it all up.
Yes, and Brad is the VP of manufacturing in this company. And oh my gosh, when we sat down and had a conversation, it was just so inspiring because, well, for one, Bret, you were kind of matched in
I would say he kills me in terms of technology, but I like to geek out in terms of
fiber geeked. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
So, Brad, welcome to our conversation today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, one of the things that when we sat down and talked, of course, we got some insight into the company that you're working with, Clothing 2.0, that has developed an incredible technology that has controlled releases of medications, vitamins, treatments through fashion garments. And that is an incredible technology in itself. But we were also just equally impressed by you, this person that's been in the industry for a long time that has this knowledge that I have never witnessed with regards to an understanding of fibers and technology and how that all works together and how it can shape a new future. So I want to begin today by just talking about how did you decide that this was your passion? Especially
in a world that or in the United States, that kind of abdicated manufacturing in the 80s, right? There's not a lot of that happening in America, and so you had to make a pretty unique choice.
It is, and thank you for asking. My classic education is in political science, so I'm non-traditional entry into the market, political science, public administration with a concentration or study of public policy.
Which completely sets you up for Yarn Counts Constructions.
Of course.
And tenure. And
so out of the box thinking started out of the box, let's say that. The study in that area was really, at the time, was about how public agencies could better make themselves look like private businesses for efficiency and effectiveness. And so my training actually was how could we go into in government, how could an individual go into government and then try to fine-tune and focus for better cost efficiencies and better outcomes with a focus on return on investment. And so starting in that background...
You're saying government doesn't really think that way traditionally. It's just a shocking comment.
When I left school, my first job was actually first full-time job was in manufacturing in a textile mill. And so I found my way into a textile mill. We have lots in this area, and there were a lot more at that time. And it was an interesting juxtaposition to be able to be in the private sector and looking at things from a public perspective. And so I took a lot of those same teachings and into the business world, into a mill. I started out pulling spools off of machine in a large conventional covering operation where you cover the spandex or the rubber yarns, and going into the mill and literally pulling spools off or doffing yarn off of the machines, and basically starting at the ground floor, earplugs in, earmuffs on, loud work environment, busting your knuckles. And so that was my beginning and starting. I got to see the machines and the yarn directly coming off that would run for days and sometimes weeks.
Wild. And how did this transition to complex conversations in terms of yarn technology?
Well, another great question. So I found myself noticing things in manufacturing, as managers at heart do, noticing things in manufacturing that didn't make sense to me. I would see things in the business that seemed to go against better efficiency. I'd see things that led to, dirty hands touching dirty yarn, and cleaning yarn or cleaning fabric sometimes means wasting it. And, and this is a different day and time than it used to be, and we want to reduce the amount of waste. And so there were things I called out in the mill, and to great managers and plant managers, supervisors were listening to things that I was saying about replacing wheel bearings and DOF buggies so that they would roll better and you'd have less damaged goods, and lots of different, right at the roots of the deal, figuring out what it was that could help us be more efficient and get more end product, which gave me an opportunity. People were willing to listen to me about other things then. And so I worked in many different departments: conventional covering and texturizing, winding, spooling. Those are all different aspects of the textile yarn manufacturing phase. And the company that I was with was large and gave me an opportunity to somewhat self-management train in each of the departments. And I got to see to some degree where they did things right, but then also from the outside looking in where they were doing things wrong. And I felt like there could be more efficiencies. And to their credit, they listened.
That's wonderful.
And I was right.
My history is learning from those that do. I mean, there is formal education, but I think that today, outside of countries that really focus on manufacturing as a normal process of day, India, China, places that manufacturing is really occurring in apparel, education in the US still lacks on the technical aspects. You really learn, I learned, especially worldwide, by those that did, the ones that were in the lines, the ones that were spinning and knitting and weaving and dyeing and, applying chemicals and solutions and just asking a ton of questions. My education wasn't a 4-year normal textile college education. It was probably more like 25 years, still ongoing. But it always fascinates me that I find someone, and there's not many that you come across, that when you have these conversations, not only are those conversations kind of on an equal level when it comes to technology or, detail, technical aspects of fibers and yarn and fabrics, but even elevates them. And I really had that experience when I met you in Carolina. I was like, wow, this guy really kind of gets it. And so, as you've progressed through your career and you landed at Clothing 2.0, C2, if you're being cool, what charged you about this particular organization?
So I had the opportunity to see innovation in the industry where we were able to add an air covering process in a one-step operation, modifying existing machines. So taking machines that had been around for 20 years and modifying them to introduce spandex and air covering, which allowed us to have a leveraged opportunity in the U.S. to be much more cost-effective. And that allowed us to stay competitive in a global market where importing of air-covered goods, meaning covered spandex, was possible elsewhere with lower labor costs, but then shipping it into the U.S. was a cost in and of itself. So we were able to modify some machines at a company I was with and be able to bring in this air covering process and actually maintain that market much longer in the U.S. and be competitive. In that same vein, we saw, well, there's a value add proposition here. If you're able to bring value into a textile, you can compete on a level completely different than other commodities in the market. And so the company I was with, we were able to do what we called surface modify yarns. And we began with performance attributes such as moisture movement, wicking, faster drying times, things that could make a textile feel softer or smoother or even cooler to the touch. And then carried that same idea on through to friction reduction yarns, some yarns with specific properties, whether it be a silver or a copper or even a zinc additive added to the yarn itself, each of those bringing different properties through testing. Could be odor control other aspects like that. And so that allowed a traditional yarn manufacturer here in the United States to continue and compete much longer into a segment where offshore and global markets were bringing in commodity in huge volumes by container loads. And in quite a few cases, we were actually shipping these high-value yarns offshore into Europe, South America, and ultimately we sent for a major brand yarn into China, which was very surprising to them that they were importing yarn from North Carolina into China to compete in a major brand that you would see in retail stores, big box stores here in the U.S. Those performance attributes to the yarns led me to say what else could be done, and I found Clothing 2.0 and the vision they have for adding even more intricate additives to a yarn, things that could be cosmetic enhancement, cosmetic actives, things that I think will extend the viability of the domestic textile market many, many more years into the future.
Yeah, definitely. The footprint of America is technology, right? We are, at least currently, still leaders in technology. We're able to transmit that technology offshore. Apple, Microsoft, Cisco, I'll name, there's a ton of them, but that technology is what keeps America alive. The melting pot of America, the combination, the freedom to think, all of those things are the wonderful parts of America that we export to the world, and technology is one of those assets. The thing that's so exciting is that we do see this resurgence and the opportunity for more business in America in textiles as we embrace technology in textile. And the innovation centers, again, I can't underplay the excitement that I got with the innovation center that we were at. There's another one that's being opened in May or June of next year in Gastonia. And the ability for people to go in and cook their own recipes and create their own outcomes and experiment and create technology, and the footprint that has been built in terms of campuses there to support that innovation is super exciting. For those of you that haven't been, I really urge to go visit at least the current one that's open and the new one that will be open in Gastonia next year. And then, when you look at this technology aspect and you look at C2 right now, it's another layer of technology, because we talk really about, I don't know, you mentioned the wicking, the quote cooling, the all the way to all the way to the NASA, which is kind of that temperature balancing technology, thermal regulation, exactly. And that's kind of really cool in sci-fi. But when we're talking about what C2's messing about with a little bit, I first jumped on it thinking I was Mr. Brilliant, right? You're going to correct me, but I was like, oh, this is microencapsulation. It's been for years. I got an exclamation mark after exclamation mark that it wasn't, right? You guys have already been down the path, and it's kind of a heavy evolution from that. Why don't you talk about what C2's technology is without giving away the secret sauce, but informing people what's going on at C2 and
how it's not microencapsulation.
Yeah, and to date, they're not baking in Xanax into garments, which would be great for a lot of people like us in America today. But they are moving down the path with cosmeceuticals, I guess is kind of the term, and some other pain relieving things and things like that. Healthware. Why don't you fill in our listeners on that a little bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The idea behind the company and the vision is that we would simplify health and wellness for the average consumer. And the way we go about it is a microencapsulation, to quickly say, is very small little particles that are placed or salted into a yarn or a fiber, and then it goes into, or even a fabric. They tend to have shorter life cycles. They work, but on items that want to have wash durability and dimensional stability, which is what most of the things we wear are going to be when things we want to have go through more than 3 or 4 wash cycles. So microencapsulation works well for heavy items that we're going to use and just wash a couple times. But we have a vision for how we can simplify the health and wellness through adding ingredients into a textile product integrated next to the skin and things you would wear, base layers or other items, and it releases into the skin of the wearer over a time-released period of time these cosmetic benefits that we're looking for. Like we said, we're working with cosmetic things right now or over-the-counter items, but we're able to essentially coat a textile fiber and a yarn with an active ingredient, and then that active ingredient That yarn is knit into a textile good, a whole knit garment, or it could be a fabric. And that garment is something that can be worn, and as you're wearing it, so rather than a lotion or a cream where you would rub it on the skin and then have reapplication cycles every 3 hours or so, which can be a problem for compliance. And most doctors will say compliance is our biggest problem. And
of course.
I definitely have that as a problem.
I resemble that remark. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So in this, you could actually put an item on and wear it. The consumer could put a sleeve on or an ankle sock or something that they wear. And over the entire duration of the time you're wearing it, maybe say 10 hours period of time. So we're talking about people who work in the healthcare profession and are on their feet all day long, a construction worker, the server at a restaurant. So we're talking about everyday people could just slip on an item, and while they're wearing it, it will release through a time release, a measured dosage of whatever the active ingredient is. And it could be a cosmetic, it could be an over-the-counter, and long-term, we see it could be measured release of other medical items. And so this is really an evolutionary product that will have benefit for many years to come. We're starting out kind of small. People understand pain relief. They think they do, and there's lots of different products that work for that. So we started there. But there's lots of other things we're bringing on board. It could be supplements. There are people who want different supplements. It could be sleep aids. It's a big segment when you really think about it, whether it goes into pillowcases or gloves that you wear at night while you're asleep to improve the look and appearance of your hands. It's the benefit of this patented technology is that it's wash durable, really sets it apart from everything else. That's where the patents are around. So,
I mean, most of the time, that's always the challenge with any of these substrates. How long they some of them you go in the wash and they're gone immediately. How do you molecularly bond these to these substrates? And you've really done something amazing here.
Thank you. It's unique custom equipment. It's all been designed for our application. We designed it ourselves. It's proprietary, state-of-the-art equipment. We designed a lot of aspects into how it works better with the operator that runs the machine. It's really important to us. The Manufacturing Solutions Center that you mentioned earlier, that's kind of an asset to be able to draw on in this region. But it's important to us that we create jobs, the next generation for the workforce. These are jobs that people want, and they're a pseudo healthcare textile related industry. So people who are building these products here love their jobs. And that was intentional, as we wanted to change the view of what manufacturing needs to look like. And if we want to keep people interested in jobs that people want to go into in the U.S., we need to make manufacturing look like things that people want to go do, things they want to take their kids to, and things they want to show in the STEM programs through schools. Good lighting, clean workspaces, good documentation, computers.
Great barbecue. Sorry.
Great barbecue.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wonderful. What particular additives are you putting into your substrate today?
So we have several different pain relievers, things that we work with capsaicin, which is the active ingredient that's in hot peppers that make things like the Carolina Reaper so hot. It's hot to the touch. Well, that active ingredient has been...
You're getting excited. She loves heat.
And so that's an active ingredient that's been shown to help with pain relief for a lot of users. Then there's menthol. A lot of people are familiar with menthol. Arnica, vitamin E, just many different active ingredients that are out there that are on the shelf but may be used in a supplement form through something that somebody takes or that they rub onto their skin. And we're not about inventing the new active ingredient, but we are about inventing the process of application, the textile-based delivery of those active ingredients for the wearer for a long time in the future. And we think that there could be lots of... The future is completely unknown and still to be grown by the people who are imagining it now. But we're creating the process, the mode of operation to get that to those consumers. So we want people talking about energy supplements. There's no reason that an energy supplement couldn't be integrated into one of these.
I could wear a Red Bull. That's
that would be cool.
Advertising for Red Bull. Yeah, I am really awake. Cool. Yeah, at least my left arm is really awake now that
an energy drink of some kind that people drink and then wear the logo on a shirt or a hat. It would be really cool if someday the shirt itself had those active ingredients, right?
For sure, absolutely. So one of the questions. Yeah. Hey, let's do it. I'm on board. one of the big questions that people have is scalability. They'd say, "Oh, this is a great idea. How big? I've got a great. I love the idea. I want to come in and pick up some C2 fabrics. I want to incorporate that into my mix in general. Is there a limitation today for C2? What are you kind of looking at? What's the scalable future? Where's it going today?"
Well, I'd like to stay humble, but the reason that I came on board here really was the scalability aspect of it. Is so many of the white papers in the academia of the world, and I don't want to name any institutions, but there are programs that things are figured out, but then they can't really make it to manufacturing level. 100%. And for those that are in the textile,
you can name a ton of organizations in that respect. Yeah,
exactly.
That happens.
I'm not calling any out.
Yeah.
So, and the joke in the industry used to be is, I made this great thing, and when somebody asks about it, they're like, "Well, we make inches of it a week. We make feet and yards of it a week. How many yards of it do you need?" And for the most part, in the textile and garment and apparel and those end uses, we're talking pounds, container loads, cases, pounds, cases, container
Metric
loads, and
tons. Yeah.
Yeah, and
tonnage,
so. Coming on board with this team here, that was the real aspect, is that I had worked in environments where we were producing, thousands and thousands of pounds for major denim producers and apparel makers and brands that people know and daily go to the store and buy. I've worked with some of those in providing the raw material yarns, in some cases with performance attributes. So coming on board here, it was important for us for scalability, that we're building these things and we can grow it. Each of the items, each of the stations that's built, the suppliers that we're working with, all of that has been built from the beginning to be able to continue to scale for multiple different active ingredients, eventually multiple different substrates, and so that we can really work our way out into a much larger market, whether that be in footwear, socks, and gloves. And it's all of these products we're talking about things that are next to the skin for a wearer, but for most of us, that's a significant percentage of the apparel we have, or even the medical devices. It's a broad market.
Yeah. How do you go about testing the effectiveness of your development?
Awesome. I'm glad you asked. We have.
Well, it's a very geeky answer. We have to ask you that.
I am a yarn geek. One of the aspects of the company is that we focus from the very beginning on, we say 33% of this company is on the science side. And so we have a manufacturing and then the science aspects of it. And from the very beginning, at each level of scale, we have done that. We scale up manufacturing, we scale up the science side to match that. And so 1/3 of everything is the science side of the company. In fact, we have 2 HPLCs and a gas chromatograph in our science lab right here next to the manufacturing
area.
What
are those things?
I don't know what they are. They sound really cool. Yeah.
It's like what you see on CSI whenever they're doing the crime investigations.
Yes.
And so they have the equipment that's high performance light chromatography, and basically you take the garment, the yarn, the garment, and you take sections of it out, and then you put it into a device with some solvents and rinse it through. I'm not even going to cover the science side of it, and when you pass light through it, it gives you a graph of what those elements are that are there. And you can measure from that and see that the active ingredient you want and the signifiers that are next to it are at the level you want them to be. And we do wash testing here, home laundering for dimensional stability, using the laundering detergents that people would use at home. And we take the items and wash them 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 wash cycles and test at each of those levels to make sure that the curve of dosage or release of the active ingredient matches our desired amount. Again, what separates it from, say, a microencapsulation in the marketplace.
I was so corrected.
Not every active ingredient can be measured with high performance light chromatography. Some, just the nature of them, have to be measured in a different way, and that's where the gas chromatograph comes in. Is basically it digests it, it burns it up, digests it, and then measures the off gassing. I'll say the smoke, but it measures the smoke for what the elements are. And certain of our active ingredients, that's what you need to use. And depending on what it is we're going after, you have to figure out which of those devices you need. But once again, you do the same thing. You're measuring it through before wash cycles, after wash cycles, and measuring how much of the dosage is still there. Because really, you need to be able to set up, whether it be a cosmetic or something else, you need to know how much are you getting? How long is it there versus a cream or a lotion or a spray or even a pill that some organ in your body has to digest. I mean, if you think about some of the things we take, we're taking a pill to make our toe quit hurting. How many organs have to process it so your toe quits hurting? I mean, couldn't you just put a sock on?
And we all wear clothing except for a few beaches, I know. Right? So,
right.
Yeah. The oldest profession, we're clothing everyone.
That's right.
Yes,
You're right.
That's true. Brett, you've long said that technology is where America will stand in bringing apparel, back to a core industry.
It's value add. It's exactly what Bradley said. It's going to be tough to compete on basics in America, even with technology based upon other foreign countries. But I think apparel is an elevated game today. People want more out of their apparel. I say in some of my presentations, it's not enough that a garment feels good or fits good in anymore. It's that they wanted to do something, even though sometimes they don't know what that something is, but they wanted to do something. And I think that is our opportunity. And it's really exciting that C2's jumping in and what I think is sort of a science fiction front of, I just think about what the next 5 or 10 years is going to bring your organization and what that's going to do for American consumers. It's just, it is such an intelligent solution for some of these things.
We see it if it's okay. In 2013, 2014, smartphones were just making their way into the scene. And a smartphone, we held a cell phone, and a cell phone made phone calls. And then it made recordings, and then it made videos, and then it was a stopwatch, and then it was a walkie-talkie, and then it was a video recorder, and now it's a compass. And
my phone does everything but take and receive phone calls today.
Well, shouldn't our clothing?
Yes, right.
I mean, shouldn't our clothing be just as diverse 100%. And just as smart? Everything that we wear should be able to have these different attributes. There should be an app for that for each of the different clothing items we have and wear daily. And this is what we're about. We're about adding.
Hopefully, it'll answer phone calls because my phone doesn't do it anymore.
Right.
No voicemails.
No voicemails. Yeah.
So we understand the landscape of Clothing 2.0. Obviously, being a tech-based company, you're always thinking about the future and ongoing evolution. What is the big picture dream 10 years from now?
Big picture and dream 10 years from now. We believe that there are major players in the market who have access to new active ingredients, whether they've invented them themselves or they've done it in a pill and put a lot of marketing behind it. There's no reason for when their patent runs out for it in a pill form, they shouldn't carry that same knowledge and technology through into things that people can wear. And in saying that there are pills we can think of that people that had 5 years on the market, everybody knows the name of them. They can describe them by their color and they know what it is. But why couldn't they carry that? Those companies carry that same investment one step further to the consumer beyond the pill, into the things that we wear. And there are people who have issues with compliance, and then there's people, for example, who have trouble with memory. I know the founder of our company had a family member with dementia. And taking the correct pills daily, getting the prescriptions right, but he still put his socks on every day. It's just a basic function of what we do. And so when we're talking about the vision of the company, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, is we see this carrying beyond cosmetics, beyond over the counter, and then eventually into an area where there could be RX down the road. It's not where we're at today. But we're building the model out with sophistication, with the diligence, so that we set the benchmark, so that we can be that company that's able to partner up with a major company towards prescriptions eventually, where you
think
could just
how life-changing that would be. I mean, you're right. I mean, having that delivery system in a way that people always put on clothes, but it keeps that consistent for those people that are impaired so much. It's just, I don't know. I'm so excited about that future for you guys.
Most of the things that we take, the biggest challenge for them is in time release. Yeah, whether it be a pill or a liquid that we take or a nasal spray, the challenge is time release. That's really where they struggle when they bring things to market. And the way this product is built into the clothing, it's built for time release. It's built for the long, smooth curve of release of the active ingredients. So we believe it'll be not just an easier product, it's going to be a better product for individuals to be able to wear and release over a long period of time, the entire day you wear it, or it could be the whole night while you're sleeping. Put it in your PJs.
And that's what's so exciting. I mean, that's a little bit of the secret sauce, but my brain sits there and kind of reels a little bit thinking, oh my God, it actually releases the substrate over time. And how do you control that from a fiber? But that is the genius that is C2 for sure.
Love it. That's the fun part.
It is the fun part.
The fun part. Well, thank you so much, Bradley, for joining us in this conversation. It's wonderful to have talks with people who are just as passionate as we are in this space, and looking forward to seeing the ongoing evolution that Clothing 2.0 brings to the industry. If
people want to reach out and touch C2 and have C2 touch them, how do they get a hold of you?
Like literally.
Yeah, literally. This is a touch and feel, right? Yeah.
Clothing2, the number 2.com. So if you'll just go online to the interwebs and go to clothing, spelled out, 2, the number 2.com, and reach out to us. We'd love to have the next ideas, the great visions for the future are still out there. Mm-hmm. We're creating the operating system for it to work in clothing, but there are still great ideas we want to hear about and build into the future. And we're open to many, many opportunities. I appreciate this time to be able to talk about what we're doing. A lot of times just explaining how something works really helps a lot of people. And so appreciate that time.
Say hi to the team for us.
Absolutely will.
Thank you.
And if you're interested in touring some of those innovation centers that we were talking about earlier, the one that C2 is based out of is the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina. And then there's another one in development that's going to open this spring of 2025 in Gastonia, the Fiber Innovation Center. Extraordinary things happening out of both of these locations. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to stay apprised of upcoming episodes of Clothing Culture.